YouTube, Dawson Ryder here. This is going to be my review for the first issue of the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers and Godzilla Crossover series. I apologize I'm so late on this one. I have been catching up on comic reviews that I've been late on recently, but this one I feel like I'm in particular late on because honestly, for whatever reason, I had it in my head that this started in April, but it started like on March 23rd or 24th, so I totally missed this because I just kept thinking it was April for some reason, and this might even be coming out close to when issue 2 comes out. But this will be the review for the first issue. Obviously, I already said that. Why are you saying that again, Dawson? But before we get started, I want to remind you guys to like this video if you enjoy it, and hit that subscribe button and that bell button if you want to get notifications for more Power Rangers reviews, news, and more. It was an enjoyable issue, very straightforward, basically place setting with some cool action. It's really, basic when you lay down what happened. Effectively laying down the premise, you have Rita finding this reality gem thing because she wants to jump universes to find a universe where there's no Power Rangers, and Tommy is on her trail, so when she transports them to a different universe, he goes with her, and they end up in a universe that seemingly doesn't have the Power Rangers or don't have the Power Rangers anymore, which is obviously the Godzilla universe, which is what gives us our setup for the story. And then Rita meets like some villains from this dimension, and I'm gonna be honest, full disclosure, I'm not overly familiar with Godzilla. I obviously know what Godzilla is. I'm a very, 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 very casual fan. I've seen the original film, I saw the old 2000 or 90s one, and I'm a fan of the new series, leading from the first one through Godzilla vs. Kong, but I don't know a lot about the mythology, so I presume these guys are some sort of established character, villain group, or whatever. But she meets with them, and they're like, well, our goal is to take Earth's resources, but Godzilla keeps getting in the way, and we send the monsters after it. And she's like, oh, you amateurs, I'm Rita, or something like that. I don't know, that's exactly how Rita talks. That was a perfect, impersonation. She winds up taking over Godzilla's mind to fight against Tommy and the Dragon Zord, and he summons the Dragon Zord, and that's like the main, I would say draw of this issue is the fight between Dragon Zord and Godzilla, because like I said, most of it is a very straightforward kind of setup. This is how we get to this universe, this is the main plot, this is what's going to be going on, but it wasn't all just table setting, as it does give you like the good action, and there was some really cool action sequence bits with Dragon Zord versus Godzilla, which I think is going to be the main draw of this comic series. As for most people, it's not my personal cup of tea because I'm not like the biggest Godzilla fan, and a lot of the fun of this crossover is, like, oh my god, they're gonna fight, and that's not my thing so much, but it was still pretty cool, because I'm more about kind of the character interaction and story when it comes to crossovers, but I acknowledge that like this is kind of what this is about. But the panels were really cool, and it's like kind of a given that you would have these two fight each other, and Dragon Zord got a couple licks in, but Godzilla winds up basically defeating him, like demolishing him by the end, especially after Rita takes over and stuff. And at the very end of the issue, we tease the other Rangers showing up because they're kind of wondering where Tommy went, but then they wind up coming to this dimension at the very end, and they say, I think they say, summoning dinosaur power or whatever. That's not how they say it. You know what I mean? Like, dinosaur power now! That was just, I'm really good at the impressions in this one. And that's like the cliffhanger. I found it to be overall pretty enjoyable though. Like I said, very straightforward, but it was enjoyable. It's a pretty clean premise on how to get the Rangers there, but it works. I like this established connection between Rita and their villains. The one thing I am curious about, though, is how he summoned the Dragon Zord. Like, not the brr, 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 brr. How is Dragon Zord there? Because they are in Angel Grove, Godzilla reality. So I'm curious, did the Dragon Zord come with Tommy because of some timey-wimey morphing grid thing? Or does Dragon Zord and the Power Rangers, or a version of them, exist in this world and it's just left over? I mean, this is like a stupid detail to get hung up on, and I kind of hate when people get hung up on these details. But I'm just curious because, if this was almost any other Ranger power, I would just say it's because of the morphing grid. But they always make a point of showing the Dragon Zord raising out of the water outside of Angel Grove. So I'm just curious, like, an Angel Grove's destroyed, so did a version of the Power Rangers exist and get, like, demolished by the events of this world? Something else I'll say that I really quite like the art for this. It's a very interesting art style that feels very retro in a way. It very much reminds me of a lot of comics from the 90s, and even some of the art of like 90s Power Rangers comics and stuff with like over-exaggerated proportions, but it kind of gives a nostalgic like throwback feel, which is probably what they're going for. But it's definitely different than we're used to seeing in a lot of the main art styles for the Power Rangers comic or the like TMNT crossover. This is obviously a collaboration with IDW, but I liked it. I don't know how other people feel about it, but I personally thought it worked really well for this because it almost feels like you're finding an old crossover comic that came out in the 90s, which is kind of cool. Oh, yeah, overall, solid first issue. Very much table setting, but enjoyable. Some cool fight scenes. I would give it a 3 out of 5. I enjoyed myself, even though this isn't overall my cup of tea. I'm looking forward to seeing how it goes, because like I said, we have 5 issues, and you can only have so many issues about them fighting the Megazord, so I'm curious to see where they'll go beyond that. But what did you guys think of this issue? Did you check it out? Did you enjoy it? Are you excited to see more from this? Do you want to see more things like this in the future? Let me know in the comments as always. Until next time, like, comment, subscribe, and climb the steps and ring that bell. See notifications for my videos. Dawson Ryder, signing out.